one of the technical questions that I received, I was apparently the only one to answer that question, and that's probably what had.
Hey, this is Patrick Curtis, CEO and founder of Wall Street Oasis. Today we have a great chat with Alkin. Alkin was at UCL getting a master's in mechanical engineering when he joined us 3 months before graduating. So obviously I was very concerned. I even told him initially like, hey, this is going to be really hard. You're super late. You got the engineering degree. Luckily he was already taking the CFA, so he was already getting some of that foundation. But listen to what happened once he came into the academy, once he started working with some of our mentors. I think you'll enjoy this one. He really felt comfortable when he got into that final round interview. Enjoy. All right, Elkin, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. So.
Yeah, it'd be awesome if you could just give the listeners kind of short summary bio, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Istanbul, so I'm Turkish, and I've studied all the way through high school there, and I actually went to a franchise school in Turkey, and for college I applied to like basically everywhere. Then I ended up in the UK, in London. So I did a 3+1, like a bachelor's plus master's program at UCL, and I studied mechanical engineering with business finance. And basically throughout all my degree, I was dead set on being an engineer up until pretty much like October, really September, October, like of 2024, when I decided, you know what, this is not going to happen because it's just there are really two aspects for me that didn't really sit well. One of them is the work life, because it's just like a basic office 9 to 5, or it's like in a factory in production. So it's not that really interesting for me, and I wanted to go into somewhere where I can really make an impact, and obviously the pay goes without saying, and all of those combined, like it's just the area that of finance, like the whole thing that really attracted me in the first place was that your effort and your performance really impacts like what you receive. So the rewarding system is really good. So if you really do something well, right, it's not about working really hard, but it's about like working well and doing something, like producing an outcome. And if you do that, then you get rewarded. And that's just how it should be. So that's why I wanted to go into that. And well, the pivoting has been really challenging. I managed to get an internship at a PE shop, and then I also decided to take the CFA. I actually got the results, by the way, last week. I passed.
Yeah.
L1, yeah.
Congrats.
So yeah, probably going into level 2, maybe next year. So we'll see about that. But yeah, so that's how it happened. I mean, I applied probably just like anyone else. I applied to hundreds of different positions, interviewed, and like really, really worked through it, and eventually got in. So here I am.
Nice. So in terms of the actual just path, it's if we think about like timing from UCL's perspective and timing in terms of how we see it. If you're in the UK, usually by your penultimate year, you want to be getting ready for spring weeks. If you're looking at like traditional high finance roles, you had like the Masters of Engineering going on obviously with business finance as well. But when you kind of made that decision, hey, I'm going to make the switch, let's talk about like that, because I can even just see on your LinkedIn, like we have engineering intern still, like you're very much branded towards engineering.
Yeah.
So how did you first land that like first private equity internship?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, my first private equity internship, I mean, it wasn't like an online post. I really networked through it. And I did get quite lucky because, it wasn't necessarily through LinkedIn, but it was, my friend's dad's friend that didn't talk for years. And then I reached out to him, it was a very long shot. Then I met, he's a partner. He was a partner at the firm that I worked at. So I reached out to him. I managed to get a coffee chat, in person, told him about what I want to do, and I'm still very interested in private equity. It's just the whole idea and like investing is really exciting to me.
Hmm.
So I'm actually really passionate about it. So he was, he was more than, happy to give me the opportunity. So that's how I really managed to get some hands-on experience. So that was great. And more I've worked and did more evaluations and modeling and whatnot, and I just started to learn more and more.
Hmm.
So and then obviously I took a lot of I got the benefit from like the Wall Street Oasis courses by a lot, especially like the Excel modeling and
Hmm.
also like the financial modeling bootcamp. They were really good.
Yeah, I mean, you
So
you had kind of already started making the pivot because you joined the private equity internship kind of in October, it looks like, and then you joined us, I think, in March. Is that right? Of
yeah,
25.
yeah,
So
I didn't start for a couple months either. So
yeah, so you
it was,
kind of like you had done that, and you're graduating really now in June, right?
yeah,
So you didn't have a lot of time to kind of try and land something. Let's talk a little bit about kind of what your approach was, because you joined us in March, but you didn't really start up till call it April, May.
yeah,
Did you dive straight into like the resume? Now that you had that private equity internship, you had something kind of tangible that said
yeah.
finance.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
That did get me. Did get me something. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, just just understanding how to network is really important because as like a student, honestly, like I mean, IB recruiting starts earlier by the year, so I mean, I honestly was really lucky. I'm not sure like if I was to do it again, I could land the role. So I can't really say much. But as a 20-year-old, like maybe even a 21-year-old, you just really don't know how to do this. Like and they expect you to. So that's the weird part. I mean, at least like not reaching out in a weird way, like because people like my friends even tell me, yeah, hey, like I want to text this guy, but like I don't even know if he's gonna respond to me. Like I feel like I'm using like that's the whole point of LinkedIn is to network, is to connect, is to just like get to know people. That's the whole point of social media. So
Yeah.
you just have to like I heard it somewhere like I don't know, it could even be TikTok this one, but like you
I
just
won't
have to
judge you. I
talk to
won't
these
judge you.
yeah, but you just have to talk to these people like they're like your friend's dad, basically, because that's just what it is. Like I don't know, you basically it's just like you're just reaching out, trying to learn more. That's the whole point of a coffee chat, and you have to be genuine with it. That's the whole thing.
For sure. And did you feel like when you came in to Academy, it sounds like you leveraged the courses obviously right away, but
Yeah.
were you comfortable in networking at this stage, given that you were a little bit older in your, in your journey? You weren't like a second year
Yeah.
in uni. You had now been there. This was now your fourth year. Did you feel more
Mhm.
comfortable, you think, or was it still
Yeah.
something you were learning? And like, can you talk to me a little about the scale of the networking that
Mhm.
you started with us?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it wasn't necessarily about the comfort, but it was about like the desperation. Like you said, I came in as a fourth year and not like a second year. In the US, I wasn't like a sophomore, so it wasn't necessarily an easy way. Like I didn't necessarily have the time. So like, oh, I'll just text like 10 people a week and eventually find something. It was really desperate. So, but I mean, once you started, it just comes automatically.
Mhm.
Like, and as you go along, like you just get better at it. It's just like basketball. Like it's just like or
Yeah.
anything else in the world. Like it's even like shaving. I mean, you just have to keep doing it. Yeah, you just have to keep doing it, and then you don't cut yourself.
And then in terms of like your volume, I'd love to hear like how you scaled it up like over time, over the several months. Was it something where you're doing this like one or two calls a week and then it eventually got to five? Talk to me about that. And then
It
how many
wasn't about
you get to?
Yeah, it wasn't about necessarily like scaling up, to be honest. It was about like specializing into specifically the people that I want to reach out because it's easy to like, I don't know, like a Bank of America, let's say, I can just look it up and I can, find thousands of associates, like hundreds of VPs, and just like reach out to all of them. And that's just, I mean, yeah, you'll get something, but it's probably not going to be the person that you really want. It's
Yeah.
more important part is to focus on who they are
Mhm.
and really like say that I really want to talk because I really want to talk to you. It's not about
Yeah.
like, oh, you're the person that can get me something, but it's about like I really want to know you, you
And
know.
how did you do that? Well, because like
Actually, it did kind of happen in one of the mentor calls.
yeah,
Yeah, with Ella, by the way.
yeah,
And I was really interested in talking to her because she also had a different background. She had a law background, and I really wanted to make sure how she pivoted and what happened with her career. So I yeah, I was really curious about that. So that's how it kind of started.
yeah,
And yeah, along the line, I mean, she gave me some tips on how to approach better and so on. So that really helped.
yeah,
But you just have to be sincere, really. I mean,
yeah.
um, you
So
can always find a template, but it has to be customized.
yeah, and so, there's two schools of thought when you think of like building a funnel towards like getting enough coffee chats. If you have the time, you
Mhm.
can do more scale and then nurture the leads down.
Yeah.
If you're closer to graduation, you can be a little bit more targeted in the sense of like you still have that desperation, but if you spend the time to write more kind of directed
Hmm.
networking outreach, and I've seen both work where you're like
Yeah.
writing a little bit more that makes it clear it's not a mass message.
Hmm.
That can also be very favorable. So tell me like what the results were in terms of like you mentioned like oh JPM was an interview you got was through networking other but the role you
Yeah.
ended up landing was not. So talk to me a little bit about that and just the
Well,
result.
yeah. I mean, the people I reached out to were either from a background similar to me, like such as engineering,
Yep.
or even a different career path, like I mentioned law,
Yep.
um, or if you're an international student, it is helpful to reach out to people from your own country.
Yep.
So that's what happened with me quite a lot. I mean, I get significantly higher responses when I
Yeah.
talk to. Maybe that's the culture, but
I'm sure your
surprised.
conversions were like 50% for that versus like 10
Yeah,
to 15% everywhere else, right? So
yeah.
cool. So then like what as you were going, I assume in like last month in May, you were like very busy interviewing.
Mhm.
What was what was the outcome? Talk to me a little bit about because I see you did some mock interviews with us with some of the head
Yeah.
mentors. Were there certain areas you felt like you needed a lot more work, like technical or behavioral, or did you feel like you were balanced and just needed more refinement?
Well, yeah. So it's just what I learned throughout is yeah, you can get through technicals really easily. I mean, I feel like WSO's interview program is perfect for this because I just did that and now I was ready for
Yeah.
any sort of questions. But just like an advice that I could give, like this happened with like one of the interviews, like the JPM interview that I did. That one was that the position was very specific. It was emerging markets, and I personally am not really familiar with emerging markets. Like I always follow the US markets, European markets and whatnot. It's also because, I spend most of my time here. And, so like it's just, I'm always thinking about those things. And I never think about,
Emerging.
other markets, yeah, especially emerging markets. So then when the interviewer asked me questions about specific, like very specific country specific questions, I I was really hesitant on answering them. So that was a problem. So if you're really going into a position, like you should really know what position you're going into, basically.
Yeah.
But for example, the position that I managed to get the job at
Yep.
SoftChat, um, that that also was a little bit because of CFA, my CFA work, because um, I beforehand I didn't really know much about swaps
Hmm.
or currency like forwards and spot rates and whatnot.
Hmm.
So that really helped. But that's this position that I got into is very specific, and I'm sure like a lot of the people usually just want to go into M&A instead. But for that, I mean, WSO's internship quest like boot camp is just perfect for it because
Yeah.
it covers everything. Yeah,
Usually what I try to say to people is like before a critical interview, if you can tell us what group that person's in,
yeah,
we
yeah,
can go to the deep roster and oftentimes get you a match. Maybe they're not still working there, but oftentimes they've worked at that exact group. So whether it's like
yeah.
big or oil and gas, it's a very different type of interview versus like
Mhm.
emerging markets or sales and trading in this or asset management over here. It's just there's so many like potential little nuances and niches within each, finance is such a massive umbrella term, right? So,
Yeah.
so it's interesting. So, like in terms of your interview for hedge fund derivative sales role, are they testing you at all? Like obviously on you didn't know what swaps were and all that stuff, but were they like testing you on like the behavior of like, do you want this job? Like why
Well,
that specific role?
yeah. So it wasn't necessarily a specific question,
Yeah.
but this is very interesting, and I really did wanted to tell you this actually. You
Mhm.
know, like the the five stories. They asked me about the ethics question,
Yeah.
and I never thought I would get this question,
Yeah.
but they did ask me the
It's
question.
7 stories, but ethics is one of yeah, yeah,
Correct, seven.
yeah. So so they actually pulled that and you were happy you had that story ready.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I mean, yeah, that was crazy. But the funny thing that happened with SocGen actually is that the allocated time for the interview was an hour, and it was with two people.
Mhm.
So the first person was my director, like
Yeah.
head of XSL sales, and we had the conversation, and she was supposed to actually ask me the behavioral questions, but it we went about time. We went to like 45 minutes. And
Yeah.
then the next person came in, and he's gonna be like my buddy. And with him, we also went on for like another 45 minutes. So it went so long that the behavioral questions were just like a procedure at the end.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's also because of the vibe that because I kid you not, I never went into a room this comfortable and confident. I don't know what happened that day, but it was like just, I wasn't sweating, like I
You were
wasn't
calm.
nervous. Yeah, I was just calm and I was ready. Maybe it's because I just finished my exams and I wrote my thesis and I took the CFA, so like
You
I
finished
was all right.
like, well, at least I'm gonna graduate. This job would be
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah,
I think it helps too that what ends up happening like as you get further and further into your job search is you realize like I'm getting opportunities. I'm going to get
yeah.
opportunities. And it's just a question of like making that connection with the interview.
Mhm.
And
That's true.
it sounds like maybe that first connection with the initial interviewer, she like that probably also puts you at ease with the second one because it's like, oh, this is going well.
Yeah.
It's a conversation. They're not drilling me. So
Yeah, but two things that I can really tell is that even though there weren't any behavioral questions like on the spot, that I really needed to answer, like besides the ones at the end.
mhm.
They really wanted to see that I was hungry, and I did give that message. Like I was like, I'm really eager to learn, and I did say that out loud. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
really, insinuating it. I just said it. I'm really hungry. I really want to learn. I'm eager to learn, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. That's what I told them,
Yeah.
and I was really open about it, and that was a good part. And then the second, actually, and also before going in, I mean on the interview bootcamp, Tim told us this, and it was that you have to, before even going into I mean, yeah, you're like, tell me about yourself, why IB, you have to have those,
Yeah.
but like before even going to like the brain teasers or like those extra things, you really need to know your technicals.
Yeah.
And um, I learned this today. Um, the one of the technical questions that I received, um, I was apparently the only one to answer that question, and that's probably why I got hired. So that's the
Love that.
reason. So you really have to know your technicals. Like
Yeah.
that's yeah,
Yeah. And I feel like there's still like for everyone coming in, whether you're self-study, whether you come through the academy, like you need to put in the hours to get
yeah,
that base knowledge in. You can't just be like a liberal arts major and waltz into these jobs. This isn't 1960 anymore. Where like you're like you buddy, like you go to the right school and that's it. It's a lot more competitive nowadays, and everyone has like courses and whatnot. So it's important that you put in the time and you mock. I really believe in mock interviews. I think it allows you, maybe you're more calm than others, maybe, but especially for the younger candidates that maybe
yeah.
aren't.
Mocks.
Sure.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about mocks, but I mean,
Yeah.
I did a lot of mocks in a row actually because my two of my interviews were really in short notice.
Yeah.
But those really helped me put reps in because I get asked similar questions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I,
um,
I just think it's like the skill of learning
yeah,
the answers is very different from the skill of delivering them. So like you had your stories done,
yeah,
right? But like actually being able to deliver them with, with the right tonality, with the right cadence and pacing, and
mhm,
all that stuff takes reps. So
yeah,
I guess just like looking back, given how frantic it kind of was for you, you said like that desperate motivation. Besides like starting earlier, is there anything else you would have done looking back?
Yeah, I would have started early, and I would have applied for spring breaks and internships, obviously.
Yeah. Anything else besides that, like looking back, would you have focused more on like the interview prep, more on like the just the general accounting and finance knowledge, technicals? What's your thought on that?
Well, I think I was very lucky about accounting because the business finance part of my course was mainly focused on accounting. So I had a good accounting foundation. So that was really good. But accounting is so important. Like
Yeah.
even like people that are in banking are not necessarily, they don't have that good foundation of accounting, and it would follow you.
Yeah.
Like it would just, this is what the my boss at the PE shop would always tell. Like he kept telling me, just go get a CPA. Like you'll always find a job after you get a CPA.
Yeah,
Like you
you'll
don't
never
have
be
to.
unemployed with a CPA.
But I mean, you don't. That doesn't mean like just don't go into IB. Just do accounting. That's not what I mean. But it's that having an accounting knowledge is so important because it takes you, like whatever you do in the future, finance related,
Yeah.
accounting will always help you. And if you don't, like if you miss like those like core concepts, that will haunt you in the future, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah, but I got basically about, valuation. It really helped me because, like I said, I was doing the PE internship very like fast paced.
Yeah.
So, like WSO really did help me with, just getting me back on track with that.
Yeah.
That was really
Were
good.
you
Also,
were
the
you brand
last,
new to like LBO modeling and all that stuff? Or is that all
yeah,
new?
before PE, yes, I was definitely brand new. I had like no idea about anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
basically.
No, it's
So
good you
yeah,
did you do
I
the
was really
did you
lucky,
do
and
the
I did work really hard for it at the same time. So
did you do the
yeah,
PE interview boot camp at all? Did you do that one?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. Um, awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story. Any final words of wisdom for the listeners coming up?
Well, you gotta keep trying. If you can achieve great things if you work hard, but if you don't, it's just not gonna happen. That's what it is.
Yeah.
People always told me that I'm really smart, but it's not about me being smart. I really had to I'm not even kidding. I had to work investment banking hours this year to like
Yeah.
get to the position where I'm at currently.
Yeah.
So
And to graduate with all your work.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Private
so
equity internship, school, thesis, everything on top of it.
yeah,
CFA and
yeah,
academy. Yeah, that's a full schedule. Awesome, Alkin. Well, congratulations with all the success, and
yeah,
I hope you'll stay in touch and keep
yeah,
popping.
definitely. Yeah. Thank you very much for your help again.
Awesome, man. Talk soon.